Good afternoon, everybody. A little bit today about my presentation. Adrian has suggested it. Perhaps I'm getting a little crusty as time goes on. The reason for that, that appearance from my attitude is because I'm a big proponent of integrating renewables into mining. And one of the ways that we accomplish this is through an honest discussion of the issues that confront the integration of renewables. The mining industry and the renewables industries are vastly different businesses. I work within Hatch, within the Renewable Power Group, and so I'm very familiar with the developers, the IPPs, the different proponents in that industry. And also I work within a group of people who do exclusively mining. So Hatch has this unique perspective on bridging between the two. The mining industry is a relationship-based industry that is highly fact-oriented. It can be occasionally skeptical. It can be occasionally sarcastic. I've got the best jokes I've ever heard coming from mine managers. They're just the most fascinating people, but they live in a very real-world environment. Sorry. We also do work in the renewable power field, and one of the things that's really fascinating to watch is that within renewable power, people sometimes, when there's gaps in the facts or there's gaps in the expectations, they fill those gaps with the power of positive thinking and occasionally hyperbole, but nonetheless, it's because they're so enthusiastic about the technology. It's culturally normal within renewable power that the promotion and the vibe that's associated with projects in the industry is widely communicated, and it's understood to have a quotient or a component of truth and a component of hope. And that's something that's the mining industry has a difficult time dealing with. And so what I'm going to deal with today is just four challenges and sort of some solutions to those challenges. And it's really based upon some of the feedback and some of the advice that I've heard from different clients over the last 12 months. So first, a little bit about Hatch, just to spend a minute on this. So Hatch is about 8,500 people globally. Here in South Africa, we have offices in Woodmead, which is of course part of Joburg. We have offices in Cape Town and around the country. You can see little blue dots there. Out of Cape Town, we do interconnection for PV wind projects. I'm talking specifically to my renewable power group, but we have a team there that's specialized in transmission. In Woodmead, we do hydro, solar, wind consulting, owner's engineering, due diligence, number of other normal activities you see from consulting engineers. So that's the staff mix that we have here, about 1,211. We wish the number was bigger. That number is dominated by mining. So there's out of that group, there's probably about 1,000 mining professionals here. Okay, so today's objective, inform and hopefully educate renewable developers. I know there's not as many developers here today as we've seen in some of the other conferences, but Hatch is in this conference and supporting this because we think it's important for our core clients, not just my renewable power clients, but it's important for Hatch's core mining clients. And so education is why we're doing this. It's not easy to sell engineering services in this type of forum, so we definitely go towards educating. And so my methodology today is going to be really try to just keep it simple. One of the things that you'll hear outside of South Africa, people within the country obviously much more educated, but people call me and say, should I be in South Africa working on renewables? And I say, well, why do you want to go? They tell me, well, because the grid's broken. I'm like, okay, that's not a good reason. That's not a good reason, because what I can tell you is that globally, and we have a global perspective on this, is that the areas where the highest degree of renewable integration occurs in jurisdictions where the grid is the strongest. Broken grids, fragile grids are not enablers for renewable power whatsoever. This is not specific to South Africa. This is the same thing in Chile. It's the same thing in places like Tanzania. It's really important. The grid strength matters. Mines need consistent base load. I think that technologically there's a gap that occurs in the conversation. Mines need the kinetic energy, the spinning energy that exists in base load generators to provide the frequency and voltage stability that is required. 100 millisecond blackout in a large industrial facility, it might as well be 4 hours. every motor in the place has flipped off, and you're running around trying to reset an entire process. And this is sort of lost on people within the utility scale market because these type of blackouts, these types of interruptions are absorbed by an overall grid. And the other reason is that it's important to have a strong grid in jurisdiction is because renewables, if you want to integrate them into mining, they have to have a strong domestic market. You can't have that price improvement, the price reduction that you see in renewables without the overall economy of scale that comes from public utility markets. So the recommendation to the renewable power business here is to collaborate and engage with national grid operators. ESCOM, others globally, are not the enemy of renewable power. They're occasionally jaded by the things that they hear in renewable power and that affects their business models, but the collaboration is extremely important. The renewable power development community can do things to improve the cost, improve the reliability of national grids, not be independent from it. The next challenge, the one that I've heard of many times, and I can tell you there's a very good example I'm going to share with you in Chile of this, is that it's good that new baseload power is more expensive than renewables. You won't be surprised to hear that building a brand new coal-fired plant, brand new gas-fired plant, it's not the same cost coming out of the gate as it was on a plant that was built 15 years ago. Lots of jurisdictions leaning on historical asset pools to provide the power price that they do. In jurisdictions where you need to build new thermal assets, the price is not the same as the old thermal assets that you would see in other jurisdictions. The reason that this is, it's a myth that this is good is because the mining industry is a global industry. Investment follows costs. I tell my clients that mining industry knows how to solve power problems if push comes to shove. They know how to take the concentrate and ship it somewhere else. Don't want to do that, but people know how to solve this problem. If it gets to a crisis, it won't be that people will pay 25 cents a kilowatt hour on an ongoing basis to refine copper or to smelt platinum. They will move that operation somewhere else. So anybody in renewable power who believes that mining companies are constrained and they're a captive audience, it's not necessarily the case. They can solve this problem. Mines need affordable baseload. In Chile, El Morro, which is a copper project just at the northern edge of Chile, it's a 200 megawatt load. It's a project that's greenfield. It's not built yet. And it can't be built because they don't have affordable baseload. And the irony of this is that solar in the Atacama region of Chile is cheaper than baseload. Solar is the cheaper option. It's the consistency that is required from baseload that is needed to refine copper. And one of the things that occurs is that if you cannot build the grid out into that region, then you can't have a mine. If you don't have a mine, you don't need solar. So the renewable power industry has to understand that the mining industry needs a holistic approach. That power is something that is not a commodity that they can necessarily divide up. They need to have consistent baseload. All right, so this is the big one for me that I encounter so much, is that understanding the mining project process. There's a belief within the renewable power community that because renewables are such a gosh darn good idea, that the mining industry will not follow the methodology that it does to evaluate capital projects. Just here, I've got this PPA, look at me, here, sign here. Just people are confused why this doesn't happen. One of the reasons is because the mining industry, the irony of it is that it's actually very similar to renewable power insofar as it's a business that's very cash flow dependent. Mines compete for global investor confidence, and that investor confidence has come from the underlying plan that was put together to enable the construction of the mine. If you make substantial changes to that, you're undermining this global, excuse the expression, but you're undermining the confidence of the global investors. That doesn't work. The investment evaluation processes are well entrenched. People understand within a specific mining company exactly what that IRR number means in the context of their firm. It may be different in another, and that's something that people in the renewable power area just need to get used to. A consistency in those things that can be controlled is guarded. We understand that nobody actually knows what's in the ore body. We think we know what's in the ore body, but we can't control that. But the things that we can control within mining, people control fanatically, because there's only so many levers you can pull to maintain profitability. Everything is evaluated as if the mine has to do it themselves. I mean, within renewable power, within the utility scale business, utilities don't do anything themselves. They sub this all out. They do IPP, PPA purchases, what have you, EPC contracts. They don't attempt to self-construct or self-control any project, but it's very normal in mining that if push comes to shove, that the mine operator has to take control of this capital project and make sure that it happens. And there's been significant lessons learned from that to say that that's problematic. The recommendation to the renewable power business is to respect the process and build confidence through the process. Whether or not you agree or disagree with the mining company or the mine's specific locations methodology of evaluating projects, please ask what they are and follow them. They may not make sense to you. That's not important. It's not whether or not something is the way you want it. What has to matter is that it fits the model for that project and for that mine. Okay, so understanding mining project cost, this is one that is a complete disconnect in the renewable power business versus the mining industry. Renewable power projects, if you build a PV project on your utility scale business, EPC, in the middle of Kansas, your soft costs associated with engineering and project management is going to be about 4%. And really it's your lawyers writing up the EPC contract. You know, your interconnection consultant, these types of things. This is not the way that things occur in mining. The amount of labor and effort that goes into coordinating, logistics, managing the integration of large capital projects in mine sites is much, much different. And so when somebody comes to you and they say, I'm going to get a PPA for you, and this is going to be based on this EPC contract, I'm just going to paper the heck out of this, you don't have to worry. Some people are going to show up and build this project and they're going to be done in 6 or 10 weeks. People in the mining sector just look at that and say, this is not true, because if that was true, you would be doing a whole bunch of other things for me too. Okay, that it's just not plausible what you're saying. And this is a challenge for people in renewable power. They're not familiar with this. They do not understand the level of effort that goes into this. And so we suggest to them to ask for the lessons learned, specific to that mine and company, specific to that location, and listen to what you're being told. Project management on large CapEx within mining, it never ends. You don't just walk away. There is no just, close the gate, turn the key on, and walk away and go home. It never ends. I mean, there's a level of effort that occurs at the mining company, at the mine site, to manage every capital asset. And this is, in a PPA, if it comes forward and says that there's no future obligation for managing of the asset, that doesn't work. So these are the four primary, I would say myths. The risks, the opportunities, and the learnings that have to occur in the renewable power field. I think that people in mining already understand these. You'll hear people talk about renewable power as in their differentiator is the price. You see people talk about my cost per power is X number of dollars per kilowatt hour. That's the differentiator historically in renewable power. It's not necessarily the differentiator in mining. It's the ability to manage the project, to avoid impact to the ongoing operations of the mine, to grow confidence with the operators, with the mine manager. All of these things are what are the differentiators in mining, not the case in renewable power. And so this is also a learning experience, I think, for everyone. Okay, so today we have some attendees here, and you're certainly welcome to connect with them and share their experiences. My job within renewable power is to share our team's experience with you. To promote the business, to advance the reduction of cost for our mining clients, and also obviously to assist our renewable power clients. So we welcome any questions you may have, and thank you very much.